My main question is, why does Rod Parsley have an alias to begin with? And his alias is Tim Anderson. My second question is, why are there burner phones in that ministry? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about this on today's program. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hanshaw with the Word of Truth broadcast. On today's program, we're going to be listening to Robin over on her Mega Mania, podcast. And she was a human resources director at the World Harvest Church there where Rod Parsley is the pastor. She's going to tell us that Rod Parsley has an alias. He is known as Tim Anderson. Why is this? Also, there are burner phones that were found. Why do they use burner phones? Let's listen to Robin as she discusses this. The link to her YouTube channel is in the description of my video. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of Mega Maniacs, and this episode is entitled, Who is Tim Anderson? And just before I get started, by the end of this episode, you will know who Tim Anderson is, but we're going to discuss some other things before we get to that, and how I encountered Tim Anderson and what prompted me to ask more questions and really kind of investigate who this person was, because when I did encounter Tim Anderson, it was a little over a year after I had become the HR director for World Harvest Church. And I thought it was super weird that this person was being included on emails and weighing in on hiring people and what their salary should be and those sorts of things. But I had never met Tim Anderson, never heard of Tim Anderson, didn't even know that he was in the directory of emails, which he was. I don't know if he is anymore, but he was. And so that led me, to ask more questions and start investigating a little bit further on who this person was and why they were so closely involved in making some big decisions. Now, I will say that after this one encounter, that I never really encountered Tim Anderson again, as far as that name being used, whether it was email, and maybe this one, was a mistake that it even got sent to me. But nonetheless, I did find out who he was, and by the end of the episode, you will also know who Tim Anderson is. So my encounter with Tim looks like it was May 19th of 2020. And I was included on an email that some hiring decisions were being made that I wasn't included in, which as the HR director is kind of weird, but I was not included in the hiring of this person, but was sent an email that I needed to do a draft of an offer letter and what I should and should not be including. And this message was coming from the chief administrative officer, who was my boss. And in this email that was sent to me, she refers to a previous email, which was in the email string, and is referring to Tim. So she's saying, I like how Tim has other, and with that being said, other as in other things that should be included in the offer letter, and those being that the person that we were going to hire must attend church and give. Okay, so this was all in the offer letter, that not only are we making this person an offer, but they are required to attend World Harvest Church, and they are required to give as well. So I'm thinking, I know of at least one person that was kind of on the pastoral staff named Tim, but I'm not even sure that he was there anymore at that point in time, and he certainly wouldn't be involved in hiring decisions. And so, I go back and look at this email string, and I see this, Tim Anderson is being involved with this this hiring decision along with Ashton Parsley. And so I again was perplexed, but went ahead and did what I was supposed to do, and but just thought it was super weird again that I did not know who this person was after being there over a year as the HR director, because I knew everybody and I knew everybody's names. So I started asking around. So, as you can imagine, I have several, or had and have several contacts within the organization. And I started asking them, hey, do you know who Tim Anderson is? And they're like, nope, I have never heard of them. And I'm like, well, why would they be included on hiring this person that was in a pretty significant role? And they're like, well, maybe it's an attorney, or maybe they used to work here and know this person. It's all speculation, basically. So I start, asking a couple other people, have you ever heard of this person? Have you met this person? And nobody could give, any information. And so again, I continued to go on with my day-to-day duties and doing my job and taking care of what I needed to take care of, but still in the back of my mind, I'm like, who is this person? So I'm Googling, Tim Anderson World Harvest Church, looking in directories, like where has this person been involved, and why are they involved in such big decisions? And I don't have any clue who they are. So, just by chance, about, 2 or 3 weeks, after this all happened, someone came into my office, and I happened to be, in there again, trying to figure out who Tim Anderson is. And the person that came to my office, they knew me fairly well and could tell, that I was pretty perplexed. And so they're like, what's going on? What's wrong? And I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out who this person is. And it's, driving me nuts that we have this person that's involved in making decisions, but I don't have any clue who they are. And the person was like, well, what's the name? And I said, Tim Anderson. And they started cracking up. And I'm like, why are you laughing? And they're like, Robin, that's PRP. That's Pastor Parsley. And I'm like, no way. Like, why are they calling him Tim? And why are, even my boss is referring to him as Tim, knowing that it's Pastor Parsley. And so then I'm even more perplexed. I feel like, I mean, I was glad to figure out who it was, but I was even more perplexed then after that, because, you know, my mind starts, you know, wouldn't say running wild, but, you know, why would Pastor Parsley need an alias? And why especially would he need an alias within the organization that he started and that, you know, he makes all of the decisions in? And so I'm, you know, now my mind is like, okay, so why would somebody, you know, do this? And I never, you know, got a clear answer, and maybe I never will, on why someone like PRP would feel like that he needed an alias within the organization. But, you know, I'm sure, you know, your mind can go off on a couple of tangents as well. Because if you watch the previous episode in my why, you know, I had a pretty tumultuous past, if you will, and I knew plenty of people that had aliases, and I probably used one or two myself, but it was always in criminal activity, and so I have never to this day, unless it's been, you know, like an author or somebody, but not anyone that I personally met, have ever met anyone that feel like they need an alias, except for if they, you know, didn't want to be attached to something, they didn't want to be, you know, appear to be involved in certain things that they were actually involved in, and didn't want, you know, that attachment to anything that's going on. But again, in my case, it was always criminal activity, and certainly this isn't criminal, but again, it makes you wonder and makes you ask questions as to why someone, especially in that position, would feel the need to use an alias. And so I wanted to do this episode because I feel like there are several people that either currently work there or have worked there in the past that know, especially if they worked closely to the executive team or closely to the Parsleys, that this alias is something that is used. I don't know how frequent or infrequent. But along with the alias, there's, you know, also a desk drawer that is full of burner phones. And so then that also, that are for, Tim Anderson or Pastor Parsley, because they're one and the same. Why would he need burner phones? I mean, you can mask or block, you know, your phone number if you don't want someone to have it. So what's the reason to have these burner phones? And so this always bothered me, to the extent that I'm dedicating, you know, an entire episode to it. But again, speculation is all that I have, and probably you have as well, unless you have more information than I do, as to why a pastor specifically, not just a person, but a pastor specifically, would not only feel the need to utilize burner phones, but also use aliases, especially within the organization, where we all know, you know, who Pastor Parsley is, and we may not have direct access to him at all times, which I don't think a lot of people do. You know, you have to go through several layers of people before a lot of times you can even get to him. But ultimately what is the reason behind that? What are the motives behind that? And again, it's all questions that we can speculate on, because I never really got any clear answers.
Hello, friends. I hope you're enjoying today's program. If it's a blessing to you, I would encourage you to like the video, to comment on it, and most importantly, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, share these videos. We want to get the message of the true truth, of the true gospel out there. And the more you like my videos and comment on them and subscribe, then that helps the algorithm. Again, I pray that today's show has been a blessing to you, and we're going to get right back into it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let's get back into today's program. Hello, friends. We're offering a special book, Christian Doctrines from an Arminian perspective. I know a lot of you request me of the question, where can I get a good book on doctrines? Well, I've finished this one, and I cover every doctrine, every major doctrine in Christianity. The doctrine of God, the doctrine of Jesus Christ, the doctrine of the Holy Spirit, the doctrine of the Scriptures, the doctrine of man, the doctrine of salvation, the doctrine of man's free will, the doctrine of perseverance, the doctrine of heaven, the doctrine of hell, the doctrine of sanctification, the doctrine of demons, the doctrine of Satan, the doctrine of evangelism and global missions, the millennial reign. And I have one chapter that I've dedicated to all the false doctrines in the world today, the major ones. So be sure to avail yourself of this special offer. And I'm not charging anything for this. I am accepting any size donation or love offering. And if you can't afford it, then I will get this ebook. It's an ebook. It's not a paperback book. It's an ebook that I will email to you. It's about nearly 300 pages long. And so it's a book on all the fundamental doctrines of Christianity. Make sure and order your copy of this today. Now let's get back into the program.
The closest to a clear answer that I got was that, and again, I don't know this to be fact, so I'm not presenting it as a fact, but the closest answer that I got was that Pastor Parsley sells real estate at times, and this is the name that he uses, Tim Anderson, to sell that real estate. And again, I don't know that's true, but all I know is that when I encountered this person in May of 2020, it was an inter-office email string, and my boss is also referring to him as Tim, knowing full well that that is Pastor Parsley. So, let's talk about this even a little bit further. In the why, so again, in my past, there were plenty of people that I knew that used aliases, but it was never in business. It was always, not wanting to be attached to certain activities, or someone being able to look at something that's in writing and not automatically be, bells and whistles and red flags that a high profile person is attached to certain things. And again, I don't know if that's the case or not, but I know that the interaction for me was very strange, to the point that I didn't even want to ask, my boss, who is this Tim Anderson? Why are they, being involved in making these hiring decisions? And why have I never met this person or heard of this person before? And so you can hit me in the live chat to give me your ideas why you think that somebody like Pastor Parsley would feel the need to use an alias, or maybe send me a message. I have no idea, but I would love to know why someone would feel the need to do that. But along with that being said, this hiring decision ended up backfiring hugely. And when it did backfire, which I warned that it may backfire, and it did end up backfiring, that they had no idea that I knew that he was the one that was making ultimately being involved in the hiring decision, which I was not involved in, and ended up just again backfiring, not turning out well. I don't want to give too much information because obviously confidentiality, but you should trust to a certain extent your HR director to the point where you involve them in decision making, and involve them, or at least hear what they have to say if there's some apprehension on hiring certain people. But that specifically continued to happen throughout my tenure there, that especially with pastors, that I was not involved in making some of those or a lot of those hiring decisions. These people that were interviewing would interview without me being present. And so all I knew was like, hey, do this offer letter, send it to this email address, and if they accept, they're starting on this day. And some of those hiring decisions ended up working out, and some of them did not. But you have a human resources department for several reasons. But again, making sure that they're involved in these decisions is very important, because this is our livelihood. This is what we do. There are certain things that we pay attention to. There are certain questions that we ask to really get a full 360 picture of if someone is a good fit, not only for the position, but for the organization. And you want to check references, and you want to do all of these things that solidify someone as a good fit for your organization, not just trying to fill a hole because you're desperate, or you feel like that this is the right person for the job for whatever reason that is. And I do believe that there were other factors that contributed to my boss and Tim Anderson feeling like this person was a good fit for the organization, which again, they even with my apprehension and the things that I said prior to this person being hired, that they ignored those things. They decided to go ahead and hire this person. And again, it backfired. And the person is no longer at the organization, which I'm not either. So, like I always do, I have a couple of Bible verses in regards to deceitfulness. And we could talk about this all day about, again, speculation on why this is and why this is not, and what do you think and what do I think? And I think that if you have worked there and experienced some of the things that I've experienced, your mind can certainly go off in several directions on why there, people would feel a need to behave this way and use aliases and burner phones and that sort of thing. But again, that would all be an exercise sort of in futility, because we may never know the answer. So the first Bible verse is Romans 3:13. And it says, their throats are open graves, their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. And I think that can be interpreted, several different ways. But again, if you've heard the previous episodes, especially episode 2, where there is a recording of Pastor Parsley, our words are very powerful, and they can uplift or they can poison, and be very, very hurtful, because once those words leave your mouth and you use certain tones for whatever you're saying, can be very, very hurtful, and people carry those with them forever. If you get hit, the pain of getting hit or being hurt, that the physical pain, may leave, but you're left with that situation. But I know in my experience, when I think about the abuse that I endured, a lot of times it's not the things that happen physically. It's the things that were said, and they replay over and over, and then and you wonder why someone could be so angry or mean that they would feel the need to speak that way, or use certain tones of voice. And then the other Bible verse is Romans 16:18. For such people are not serving our Lord Christ, but their own appetites. By smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. And for me, I think a lot of us, can be naive to a certain extent when we're very vulnerable and we're very trusting of the people around us. And that can be in business, in our personal lives, in our spiritual lives, even in our financial lives. We go to financial planners and doctors and CEOs because these people, hopefully have proven themselves, and pastors for that matter, have proven themselves, or should have proven themselves to be able to get the education that requires them to be in their position. They have the experience that is required to be in that position. And they may have a lot of the things that we aspire to have, or we strive to have. And so, we're more open with them, than either we should be, or that more open than maybe we are with other people, because there is sort of a blind trust there, for these people that are in these positions. And then, if and when you're hurt by these people, or even if you disagree, it's sometimes very intimidating to even disagree with the people that you're trusting in these positions. But then if you're chastised for it, then you certainly are not only apprehensive with them, but likely apprehensive going forward with anyone else in those positions. And like I've said in other episodes, I feel like it's super important that not only do we have our personal relationship with God, but that we also know, our Bibles, because you can't fool people that know what the Bible says, and whether the words are getting twisted or if they're just downright not in the Bible at all, or are being misquoted, because I think all of those things certainly happen. I feel like that's kind of where the naive piece comes in, is that we are blindly trusting these human beings, and we really should only put those expectations on God. And again, that doesn't mean that these people are, out to hurt you and those sorts of things. But it also means that, have your own mind, and make sure that you're doing your due diligence, in not just expecting someone to feed you and give you information, and not double checking what's being said, or doing your own research and your own investigation. And had I not done that, I probably would have never known who Tim Anderson was, or continued to investigate that further, as to why does this even exist, especially inside of an organization.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, your guess is as good as mine as to why Rod Parsley deems it necessary to use an alias, calls himself Tim Anderson, and why they use burner phones, I don't know. But there is more to this story that hopefully will be revealed in a future date. In the meantime, avoid Rod Parsley. He's a false teacher. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He will lead you away from the true gospel and the true Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you for being with me on today's program.